3 school horror stories. Story 1, The Locker That Knocked Back. People at North Valley High used to joke about the lockers knocking at night. But one winter morning, a student answered the knock, and something inside answered back with his name. After that, the knocking didn't stop. It followed him home. North Valley High wasn't the type of school that got haunted rumors. It was newer than most, built in the early 2000s, with shiny tiles, bright banners, and polished metal lockers that clanged loudly whenever students slammed them shut. But even new buildings can hide old things. And even brand new lockers can hold something that should never have been locked away. The first to hear it was Evan Parker, a quiet sophomore who lived more in his sketchbook than the real world. Teachers described him as creative but withdrawn. His parents called him a good kid but too imaginative for his own good. He'd stay late in school most afternoons because his mom worked double shifts and didn't pick him up until 6. The hallways always felt too big, too empty. The air too still. But he liked the quiet. Until the knocking began. It was a Thursday evening in December. The sky outside the windows was already pitch black. Evan sat alone on the floor near the art room, sketching a landscape, until he heard 3 knocks behind him. Tug, tug, tug. Slow, deliberate. He turned around sharply. Nobody there. Just a long hallway and rows of lockers stretching into the dimly lit distance. He tried to ignore it, maybe metal settling, some vibration, whatever. 20 seconds later, tug, tug, tug. Same rhythm, same slowness. But this time, it came from locker 213. He stared at the locker. A thin line of black dust trickled out from the vents. He took a cautious step closer and whispered, "Hello." Silence. He leaned in. Then, something knocked back, harder this time. Tug, tug, tug. He jumped backwards so violently that his sketchbook flew across the hall. Breathing hard, he stared at the locker. It wasn't someone playing a prank. He would have seen feet underneath the door. He would have heard breathing. There was nothing, but something inside the metal compartment had clearly responded to him. The next day, Evan avoided that hallway, but he had to pass by it during last period. Students flooded the hallway, talking, laughing, pushing each other around, and for a moment, Evan felt safe. Until, as he passed locker 213, he heard something that turned his blood cold. "Evan," whispered from inside the locker. His name. He froze. The crowd kept moving, brushing past him. Nobody looked surprised. Nobody looked like they heard it. The voice came a second time, quieter. "Let me out." Evan backed away, nearly tripping over someone's backpack. He ran. After school, he approached Mr. Thompson, the janitor, an older man who'd worked in the district forever. "Do you know anything about locker 213? Evan asked hesitantly. The janitor stopped sweeping. His expression changed. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Don't go near that locker," he said quietly. "But why something else? Just leave it alone." His tone was final, borderline frightened. "Has something happened there?" Evan pushed. The janitor hesitated, then said, "In 2008, a student disappeared. A freshman, stayed late after basketball practice. That locker was the last place he was seen." He leaned closer. They never found him, but his shoes were inside the locker, tied together. "Was the door open?" "No," the janitor whispered. "That's the problem." Evan forced himself to forget. But that night at home, while in bed, he heard it again. Tug, tug, tug. He sat up straight. It was coming from his closet. "No," he breathed. He edged toward the closet door, hands shaking. He pressed his ear to it. Silence. He slowly opened the door. Nothing inside. No knocking. But his backpack, the one he'd leaned against that locker earlier, was covered in black dust. He dropped it to the floor, heart racing. And then he saw it. Inside the backpack. At the bottom, A strip of metal, painted the same color as the lockers at school. His eyes widened. It was a fragment of locker 213. The next day he stayed after school, determined to prove to himself he wasn't losing his mind. The hallway lights flickered on and off. His footsteps echoed deeply. He approached locker 213. "Who are you?" he whispered. Silence. He swallowed. "What do you want?" This time there was a whisper through the vents. "Want you." He felt his legs turn to jelly. Then, the lock on the locker door twisted on its own metal screeching. The latch slid open. Very slowly, the door creaked outward. Darkness inside. Then two pale fingers reached out, gripping the doorframe. It wasn't human. It was shaped like one long limbs, thin torso, but its skin looked like faded paper soaked in water. Its face was smooth. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just indentations that suggested a face had once been there. It leaned out of the locker, bent in half like its bones were soft. Then, in a voice like a breath scraping through a crack, it whispered, "Come in." And the locker widened, literally stretched, as though the metal had become soft, widening into an impossible black entrance. The thing reached toward him. Evan ran. He found the janitor mopping near the gym. "It's out," Evan gasped, "the thing in the locker." The janitor sighed deeply. "I knew it, it's happening again." "What is it?" Evan demanded. "It's what's left of that boy who disappeared," he said quietly. People whispered that the locker swallowed him, but that isn't the whole story. He leaned closer. The boy had a habit. He liked crawling into tight spaces, hiding, playing pranks. One day he crawled inside and the door slammed shut. We think he suffocated. Evan's skin went cold, but the body was never found. The janitor nodded. Because the locker never gave it back. That night, Evan didn't sleep. At 2:13 a.m., the same number as the locker. He heard knocking again, but not from his closet, from under his bed. He froze. Then a whisper, "Evan, you forgot to open the door." Hair fell over his face from the slats of the bed frame above him. Except, there was no one on the bed. Something was hanging upside down. He bolted from the room, sprinting for the kitchen. But the lights went out. In the reflection of the microwave door, he saw it. The faceless thing standing behind him. Arms long and dragging. Fingers reaching. He fell backward. The thing knelt over him, head tilting unnaturally. "Come inside." Then something yanked Evan backward. But not physically. His body slammed into a cold, narrow surface. A metal surface. He was inside a locker. The door slammed shut. Everything went black. When Evan's mother reported him missing, the police searched everywhere. The only clue was his backpack. Inside it, his sketchbook, his last drawing, a tall locker with a hand reaching out of it. Students at school swear they hear knocking now. From locker 213. Sometimes soft, sometimes frantic. And if you put your ear close enough to the vents, you can hear a boy's voice whispering, "Let me out." Story 2, the art teacher who never blinked. At Willow Creek Middle School, everyone whispered the same thing. Don't stare into Mrs. Delaney's eyes. Because the old art teacher never blinked. Not once, not ever. And the students who stayed after class with her said she wasn't looking at them. She was looking through them. Only one student ever learned what she was really seeing. And he didn't survive long enough to warn anyone. Willow Creek Middle School wasn't old, but it felt old. Every hallway smelled faintly of pencil shavings, dust, and old paper. The lockers rattled when nobody touched them. The walls hummed with a strange vibration, especially after hours, as if something inside the structure kept breathing. But nothing was creepier than room 104, the art room. And nothing was creepier than the woman who taught there. Mrs. Alina Delaney, the art teacher who never blinked. Students joked that she was a lizard, a robot, or a witch. No one had ever seen her close her eyelids, not even once. Her big gray eyes stayed wide and unblinking, shiny like wet stones and too focused. But the worst part was not her eyes. It was the way those eyes followed something invisible, just over your shoulder, as if she was watching a shadow that only she could see. Tyler Briggs was not the type who believed in school rumors. He didn't scare easily. He didn't get spooked by ghost stories, abandoned hallways, or creepy teachers. He was 13, confident, sarcastic, and annoyingly brave. He didn't think Mrs. Delaney was haunted. He thought she was a harmless old lady who needed eye drops. Until the day he stayed after school with her. Until the day he saw what she saw. And then everything changed. It was a Friday afternoon when Tyler got detention for throwing clay at another student in art class. Mrs. Delaney insisted he stay after to clean the supply shelves. Normally the room was loud, full of kids, scraping chairs, laughing voices. But now it was silent. Silent in a way that made the air thick. Silent in a way that made Tyler's lungs work harder. Mrs. Delaney stood behind her desk, still as a statue, her eyes fixed on the far corner of the room. Tyler cleared his throat. Where do you want me to start? Her voice came out soft but hollow, like she hadn't used it in hours. Shelves, she whispered. Begin with the bottom rows. But her gaze never shifted. Not to the shelves. Not to Tyler. Just to the empty corner. Tyler swallowed. Is there something over there? Mrs. Delaney didn't look at him. But she said in that same soft, unblinking voice, "It doesn't like when you look at it." Tyler froze. "Hilarious," he muttered, trying to creep me out. But she didn't answer. Her hands were trembling. Her eyes were watering from not blinking. "Mrs. Delaney, you okay?" She whispered, "I see it everywhere, behind everyone." Tyler looked again at the empty corner, a chill crawling up his spine. The air seemed darker there, like a shadow that didn't belong, like a patch of space that absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. After 20 minutes of silent cleaning, Tyler's knees hurt from crouching. He stood to stretch. That's when he heard it. A single slow footstep. Behind him, he spun around so fast he knocked over a stack of sketchbooks. Nothing was there. Mrs. Delaney whispered sharply, "Don't turn around when you hear it." Tyler's voice cracked. Why not? Because that's when it follows closest. He backed toward the supply counter. "What is it?" Her voice broke into a whisper, so thin he had to lean in to hear it. "The thing that watches through my eyes." Tyler tried to laugh, he really did, but his throat felt dry. "That's ridiculous." Mrs. Delaney's pupils shrank violently, like she was suddenly terrified. "It's behind you now." Tyler didn't move. He didn't breathe. He just stared straight ahead at Mrs. Delaney, who looked like she might faint. She raised one shaking finger and pointed slowly, painfully, to the air behind his shoulder. "Don't look," she mouthed. A coldness washed across Tyler's back. Not a breeze, this room was sealed shut. This was a presence, like someone was standing so close they could whisper into his ear. He felt breath, hot, wet. Something exhaled on the back of his neck. Tyler's vision blurred. "Mrs. Delaney," he whispered, voice trembling, "there's something behind me." She didn't blink. Not once. "Don't turn around," she whispered. "It will know you know." For 10 seconds. 10 full, crushing, suffocating seconds. Tyler stood perfectly still. The cold breath continued. Slow, heavy, and wrong. In the reflection of a metal paint tray sitting on the counter. He saw something. He saw a shape standing behind him. Tall, bent, dark like coal. Arms too long. A head that twitched like a broken puppet. And no face. None at all. Just a pale smear where features should be. Tyler screamed. He didn't turn around, but he sprinted to the door. It slammed shut before he got there. Mrs. Delaney clutched her head. "Don't move," she shrieked. "If you move too fast, it gets excited." "What is it?" she whispered. "The thing that learned to live inside reflections." Tyler backed away from every shiny surface. He felt the temperature plummet. Mrs. Delaney's eyes darted first to the ceiling, then the walls, then the corner again. It's everywhere. The school has mirrors. Every window, every puddle, every screen. She lifted her trembling hands, pointing toward him. "And now it likes you." Tyler slid down the wall, trembling. "What does it want?" Mrs. Delaney finally blinked. Just once, slowly, painfully. To be seen. Tyler didn't understand. She approached him slowly, kneeling. "When I first saw it," she whispered, "I thought it was my imagination, a shadow that followed me, a flicker in my peripheral vision. It would move when I blinked, so I stopped blinking." Tyler stared in horror. "That's why your eyes—" "Yes," she said, "because if I blink now, it will move closer." She pointed to the room's wide, bright mirrors above the sinks. "You're young, it likes the young the most. It likes their eyes, their fear." Her voice broke. "I tried to protect you, but you looked into its corner. It likes you now." Suddenly, one of the mirrors cracked, from end to end. Tyler screamed. Mrs. Delaney's voice quivered. "It's entering." The lights flickered violently. The crack widened. A hand, long, skeletal, dripping with black liquid, pressed out from behind the glass. Tyler stumbled backward. Mrs. Delaney reached into her desk drawer desperately. She pulled out something wrapped in cloth. She unwrapped it. A paintbrush. No, a broken paintbrush. On the wooden handle, carved in jagged, desperate letters. "Don't look at it." She pressed it into Tyler's shaking hands. "This was the last thing Jeremy White held," she whispered. "He was the student who vanished in 1996. No one knew what happened, but I know." Tyler swallowed. "It took him," she whispered, "through a mirror." The shadow hand pressed harder. Glass rained onto the counter. Something was crawling through. Mrs. Delaney grabbed Tyler by the shoulders. "There's something you must know," she breathed. Her eyes widened further, painfully holding back a blink. When the school opened, the board installed new security mirrors. But one was wrong. It wasn't a mirror, it was a doorway. Something attached itself to my reflection. She gasped. "I've been keeping it here, trapped for 20 years. Tyler stared at her, horrified. "You trapped it." "I had to," she cried. "If I let it go, it would follow every child home. It likes children, it takes children." The mirror crack deepened. The creature's shoulders emerged, jerking unnaturally. Tyler took a step back. "Mrs. Delaney, what do we do?" Her voice turned sharp. "You run, I'll hold it." "What, Nuyuka?" "I'm old," she whispered. "Young people it plays with. Old people it devours." She pushed him toward the back exit. "Go." But Tyler didn't get 2 steps before the creature surged fully into the room. It was tall, nearly scraping the ceiling. Its limbs dragged, long and crooked. Its body was carved with marks, long scratches, as if it had clawed its way out of countless mirrors. Its faceless head twitched toward Tyler. Mrs. Delaney screamed. "Don't let it catch your reflection." Too late. Its head snapped toward the metal paper cutter. Tyler's distorted reflection wavered there. The creature unged, moving impossibly fast. Mrs. Delaney jumped between them. The creature's claw slashed across her face. But she didn't blink. Not once. Instead, she grabbed the creature's arm with shaking hands. "Run," she shrieked. Tyler bolted through the exit door. But something grabbed his ankle. Cold, wet wrong. He screamed and kicked, slipping free. He didn't look back. He burst out into the hall, only to see his reflection staring at him from a trophy case. Except, his reflection wasn't mimicking him. It smiled. A wide, horrible smile he did not make. He ran blindly. down the hall, up the stairs, toward the main entrance. But every reflective surface showed. Not him, not his reflection, not his face. Instead, the faceless creature standing closer. Closer, closer, as if reflections predicted his future. As if they showed where the creature would be in 5 seconds. He sprinted into the cafeteria. Stopped dead. The giant wall of windows showed the outside courtyard. But in the glass, he saw the creature standing directly behind him. He gasped, then felt breath on his neck. He turned and saw nothing. It was in the reflection only. He stepped back. The reflection stepped forward. He fell to the floor. The creature leaned down in the glass. Its faceless head twitched, and then the mouth appeared. A huge, drooling, impossible smile stretching across the blank skin. Not a face, just a mouth. Opening, reaching. The glass rippled. Hands pushed through. Tyler screamed, and the cafeteria lights went out. Monday morning, the school principal announced, Mrs. Delaney has resigned suddenly due to health concerns. The art room was sealed off. Students were told to avoid the east wing. Nobody mentioned Tyler. Nobody asked. And every window in the building, every metal surface, every screen. For weeks afterward, students saw something new in their reflections. A boy's face they didn't recognize. Wide-eyed, terrified, screaming silently from within the glass. And behind him, something faceless, something smiling. Story 3, the basement classroom no one should have found. At Westbridge High, there's a rule no one questions. Never use the basement hallway. Not even if the main stairs are blocked. Not even if a teacher tells you to. Because that hallway leads to a classroom. That doesn't exist on the school map. A classroom with its lights always on. Its door always cracked open. And a voice inside that sounds exactly like someone you trust. Most students never hear it. But one boy did. And he didn't survive long enough to warn anyone. Westbridge High was only 20 years old, but the building had a reputation that felt much older. Students said the lights flickered even with brand new bulbs. They said the intercom whispered at night when no staff were in the building. They said the basement always smelled like old water and metal. But worst of all, everyone knew never to go down the old basement hallway. It wasn't sealed. It wasn't locked. The school simply pretended it didn't exist. The hallway was narrow, cold, lined with old pipes, and led to a single classroom door. Room B13. But on every official school map, the classroom didn't exist. The number didn't exist. The entire hallway didn't exist. It should have been impossible for anyone to get inside. But someone had been in there. Someone kept leaving lights on. Someone kept moving the desks. And sometimes late at night, the janitor swore he heard a teacher calling roll. Jason Mercer was a quiet 16-year-old who spent most of his time drawing comics in his notebook. He didn't cause trouble. He didn't skip class. He didn't believe in urban legends. But he did have a bad habit of curiosity. And that curiosity ruined his life. It started during a school-wide power outage one afternoon in October. All the lights went out except one. Jason was walking near the main stairwell when he noticed a faint glow coming from below. The basement, the forbidden hallway. He stood at the top of the stairs, squinting. The glow wasn't flickering like emergency lights. It wasn't yellow like old bulbs. It was white, bright white, like classroom fluorescence. But that made no sense because the school power was out. Jason leaned over the railing. Everywhere else was dark, except down that hallway. He swallowed. He should have walked away. He should have listened to the rule every student followed without question. But he took the first step down, then the next, then the next. When he reached the bottom, he noticed something strange. The basement hallway was ice cold. Not normal cold. Not underground cold. It felt refrigerated. His breath fogged in front of him as he exhaled. The glow came from the classroom door. Room B13. The door was cracked just slightly, just enough for light to spill out. Jason approached slowly, the floor creaking beneath him. Something scraped inside the room. A long, slow drag, like furniture being moved, or something heavier. He froze. Then he heard a voice. His best friend's voice. "Jason, hey, come here, you gotta see this." Jason's heart skipped. It sounded exactly like his friend Derek. Same tone, same rhythm, same laugh. Except, Derek wasn't at school today. He'd gone home sick before lunch. Jason stepped back. "Derek," the voice answered immediately. "Yeah, it's me, come on man, I found something awesome, don't be scared." Jason's stomach twisted. The voice sounded too perfect, too precise, like it was copying Derek, instead of being Derek. He whispered, "How did you get down here?" There was a pause. Then, "I've been here the whole time." The voice lowered, becoming whispery and slow. "You should come in." Jason turned to run, but the classroom door creaked open. Slowly, as if pushed by an invisible hand. "Jason," said the voice again, now deeper. Lowered, stretched unnaturally long. "Come see." The room inside was bright, but not normal bright. The fluorescence buzzed and hummed like dying insects. The walls were lined with old-school posters, faded and peeling. Every desk was facing the wrong direction, toward the back wall, not the front. And on the back wall was a blackboard. No chalk, no erasers, just deep scratches running down its surface. Long, desperate marks, like someone was trying to claw their way through it. Jason whispered, "Hello." Something scuttled across the ceiling. Jason jerked his head up, but nothing was there. The light flickered, and for a fraction of a second, he saw multiple shadows on the walls, but only one belonged to him. The others didn't match anything. They were too tall, arched wrong, twisted. His throat tightened. "What is this place?" He stepped further in. The room temperature dropped instantly. He could see his breath clouding in front of him. Suddenly, the voice came from behind him again, right by his ear. "Sit down." Jason spun so fast he nearly tripped. No one was there, but one of the desks, the closest one, had turned to face him. It creaked as it slid across the floor, inviting him, begging him. Jason backed away, only to see another desk turn. Then another's. Then all 20 desks slowly rotated toward him, perfectly synchronized, all facing him, all waiting. He bolted for the door and hit invisible resistance. It felt like pushing against glass. He slammed his fist on the wood. The door didn't budge. He was trapped. A loud static crackled from the intercom speaker in the corner of the room. Then a voice spoke. Not Derek. Not anyone Jason knew. A woman's. Soft. Warm. "Jason, sweetheart," she said in the voice of his mother. "Please sit. I need to tell you something important." Jason froze. His mom was at work. She never called the school. "Mom." "Yes, baby, I'm right here. Just sit down." Tears formed in Jason's eyes. She sounded exactly like her. The same softness. The same rhythm. The same tiny breath she took when she was worried. "Mom, I can't get out." "Sit down," she repeated firmer. Something thudded behind him. Jason turned slowly. The blackboard was bulging outward from the inside, like something was pushing through it, trying to escape, trying to enter the room. His mother's voice changed instantly. Deepening, cracking, breaking. Sit DOWN. The blackboard split. A hand, long, thin, pale, and shaking, pushed out from the crack. Jason screamed and stumbled backward, but a desk slid behind his knees, tripping him. He fell into the chair. Immediately, arms made of black shadow snapped up from under the desk and wrapped around his wrists and ankles. Holding him down, the intercom voice whispered, "Good boy." The blackboard tore open completely. Something crawled out. It wasn't human, but it tried to look human. A figure wearing a tattered, moldy teacher's uniform. Skin gray and sagging. Limbs too long. Head tilted at a horrible angle. Its face wasn't right. It looked like a face assembled from pieces. Mouth too wide. Teeth too many. Eyes glassy and mismatched. But worst of all, it smiled when it saw Jason. A long, slow, spreading smile. The thing shuddered, cracking its neck back into place. Then it spoke. Not with one voice. With many. Layered. Echoing. Stolen. Class is in session. Jason's heartbeat hammered. The creature stepped forward. Every fluorescent light flickered. The shadows on the walls stretched and twisted like living things. Jason struggled, but the shadow arms held him tighter. The creature leaned down until its stolen face was inches from his. "You shouldn't have come here, Jason." He felt cold breath against his cheek. The creature tilted its head, then whispered, "We called you." With a long, bony finger, the creature pointed toward the open blackboard. Now a pulsing dark passage. Inside it, Jason saw shapes moving. Human shapes. Dozens. Arms reaching. Faces pressed against the dark surface. Mouths silently screaming. Students. Trapped. The creature whispered, "Do you know why this classroom was sealed?" Jason shook his head violently, crying. "It wasn't the school." The creature smiled wider. "It was us." Jason tried to pull free, but the desk arm squeezed tighter, bruising his wrists. The creature leaned even closer. "The first students who entered this room never left." It gestured toward the crawling figures inside the blackboard. "We kept them. We kept their voices. We kept their faces." Jason sobbed. "Please let me go, please." The creature tapped his forehead gently with one finger. A cold shock shot through him, making his vision blur. Then dozens of voices whispered inside his head. "Stay with us, stay with us, stay with us, stay with us, stay, stay, stay." He screamed. The creature pulled back slightly. "Your mind is loud," it murmured, "perfect for us." Jason shook uncontrollably. "What are you?" The creature's mouth opened wider. "Far, far too wide. We are what schools forget." Its voice warped. "What gets buried under renovations? Our halls are the ones erased from maps. We are the teachers left behind. And we need..." It leaned close, its breath freezing his cheek. "New students." Suddenly, a thunderous bang came from outside the room. The classroom door jolted. A second bang. Jason heard someone shouting, "Jason, Jason, you in there?" It was Derek. His real voice. The creature hissed angrily. The shadows tightened around Jason. The blackboard doorway pulsed, opening wider. The creature snarled. "Another student, good." Jason found strength he didn't know he had. He screamed, "DERK, run, run now." The creature crashed one long hand over Jason's mouth. "SHHHHHH." Another bang. The door cracked open an inch. Jason heard footsteps rushing inside. "Derek." The creature smiled. Jason screamed into its hand. Derek stepped forward, then froze. His face went pale. "Jason, what is that?" Jason sobbed and shook his head, desperate. The creature whispered. One becomes two. It lunged. Derek screamed. Jason screamed louder, but he could only watch. Frozen, a shadow arm snapped up from the floor and dragged Derek toward the blackboard. No, let him please. Derek clawed at the floor, shrieking. Jason, help me, please. Jason sobbed helplessly. The creature placed a hand on Jason's chest. Your turn. Derek was dragged screaming into the black void. The blackboard closed. Silence. The shadow arms released Jason. He collapsed to the floor, shaking, gasping, sobbing. The creature leaned down to him one last time. In faint whispers, layered voices, dozens of them it said. Class dismissed. The lights blew out. On Monday morning, 2 students were absent. Jason Mercer and Derek Shaw. Both families reported them missing. The school claimed they left campus early Friday. No one questioned it, but students walking past the basement at night said they heard voices behind the sealed door. 2 boys calling for help, calling for someone to rescue them, calling for someone never to come down here. And sometimes, when the hallway lights flicker, students swear they see 2 shadows under the door, even when no one is standing there.